The sun burned hot above the town of Dry Creek. It was noon, but the streets were already full. People stood around the wooden auction stage. Dust swirled around their boots. Flies buzzed. The smell of sweat, old wood, and fear hung in the air. This was no normal market day. It was a slave auction. They lined up people like cattle. Men in chains, women with torn dresses, and children with empty eyes. Some had been caught stealing. Some were sold by their own families. No one cared. The people standing around only wanted to see what they could buy, for work, for labor. Or worse, at the very end of the stage stood a girl, strange and silent. She looked no older than 17. Her clothes were not like the others. She wore what looked like tribal rags, feathers in her hair, beads around her neck, and a long cut on her cheek. Her hair was dark, falling over her face. Her bare feet were bruised, her wrists tied behind, her back with rope. A dirty wooden sign hung around her neck. $5, damaged, untrainable. People looked at her and laughed. She looks wild. Someone whispered. Probably cursed, said another. She ain't worth 5 cents, spat an old man with one eye. Still, she stood there, calm, quiet. Her dark eyes looked far away, as if her spirit wasn't there at all. Then someone noticed something. What's that on her shoulder? A woman asked. The girl's torn sleeve had fallen, revealing her upper arm. There, just above the bone, was a black tattoo. Not pretty, not clean, just dark lines drawn by hand. Old and faded, a tribal mark. Most didn't care, but one man in the crowd did. He was standing at the back, near his horse. A tall man, broad shoulders, dusty hat pulled low over his face. His coat was worn. His boots were cracked. He looked like any other cowboy, but his eyes told a different story. The moment he saw that tattoo, he froze. He knew that symbol. It had once saved his life, years ago. He had seen that same tattoo on a girl from a hidden tribe far, beyond the desert. She had nursed him back to life after he was shot and left to die. He had never known her name, never got to say thank you. But he remembered the pain, the fever, the kindness, the smell of smoke and herbs. And the tattoo. Always the tattoo. And now he was looking at it again, on this broken, quiet girl on the auction stage. The auctioneer raised his hand. No bids? Then she'd go back with the rest. Last chance. The man stepped forward. Stop. His voice was loud, clear, and firm. I'll buy her. The crowd turned to look. The auctioneer laughed. You sure, mister? $5 for this one? She don't talk. She don't work. Might be crazy. I said I'll buy her. He walked up to the stage. The girl didn't move. Her eyes looked at him just for a second, then back down. He pulled 5 silver dollars from his pouch and placed them in the auctioneer's hand. The rope around the girl's wrists was cut. She stumbled a little, but stayed on her feet. She didn't say anything, just stared at the man with quiet, tired eyes. What's your plan with her? Someone in the crowd asked. He looked back once. She's coming with me. He didn't owe them any explanation. The man helped her down from the platform. She didn't resist. She followed him through the dust, past the stairs, past the whispers. People watched them with wide eyes. Some laughed, some spat, some just shook their heads, but the man didn't care. He had seen something no one else saw, that tattoo. That mark, that memory. It had come back to him like a flash of lightning. This girl, whoever she was tied to his past. He remembered lying on the cold ground years ago, blood pouring from a bullet wound. He remembered the sound of drums, the smell of smoke, and a girl with soft hands wiping sweat from his forehead. A girl with that same tattoo on her shoulder. He never thought he'd see it again. He never thought he'd get the chance to repay that. Moment. Now, fate had brought it back, on the shoulder of a girl who looked half alive. She didn't know who he was, but he remembered her. Or maybe not her. Maybe someone she was connected to. But that didn't matter now. He had bought her. Freedom. That was the start. The sun was falling low in the sky as they walked out of Dry Creek together. One man, one strange girl, one old tattoo that connected two broken lives, and behind them, the town kept buzzing. But none of it mattered now. Something had begun, and it would not end quietly. They left the town behind as the sky turned orange. The dust road stretched long and lonely. The wind blew soft now, not carrying voices, not carrying hate. Only silence. The cowboy didn't speak much. His name was Jace. The girl followed behind. Him, her steps slow, almost dragging. She looked at the road, not at him. She didn't ask questions. She didn't thank him. She didn't even speak. Just walked like someone used to being owned. Jace looked back at her a few times. She wasn't crying. She wasn't shaking. But she was tired. Real tired. They stopped near a small creek at sunset. There were trees there, and shade, and cold water running across smooth stones. Jace helped her sit. She sat like she was still. Tied, hands closed together, head down. He untied a small cloth bag and handed her a piece of bread and a tin of water. She didn't touch it. You can eat, he said gently. You're not a slave now. She looked at him. Her eyes were black and silent. Then, slowly, she took the bread and chewed, bite by bite. She drank, then sat still again. Jace watched the tattoo on her shoulder, the symbol of that old tribe. His heart ached. That same tribe had once pulled him out of death. Years ago, he remembered it clearly. He had been shot by bounty hunters after a bank. Robbery gone wrong. His horse ran. His blood poured into the dirt. He had crawled near a canyon and passed out under the stars. And then, darkness. When he woke up, he was inside a cave, warm and hidden. His shoulder was bandaged with herbs. His chest was wrapped. A fire burned. Beside him sat a girl. She was young, maybe 16. She had big, quiet eyes and that same tattoo on her arm. She never spoke, but she stayed with him for 4 days. She fed him, cleaned his wounds. On the last night, she gave him a carved bone pendant with the same tattoo mark and left before. Sunrise. He never saw her again. He carried the bone for years as a sign, a memory. When he left the outlaw life, he kept it in his saddlebag. It reminded him someone out there had saved him without asking anything back. And now this girl, the one he had bought, carried that same tattoo. It couldn't be a mistake. After she finished eating, she dipped her hands in the creek and cleaned her face. The dirt washed away, and her skin showed red scars and scratches. Her cheek had a healing cut, probably from someone hitting her. Then she stood, walked toward the fire Jace had built, and sat close to it. You remember. "Emmy?" Jace asked. No reply. "Do you know this?" He said, pulling the small bone pendant from his coat. He held it out for her as her eyes widened. She stared at it like it was a ghost. She reached for it with trembling fingers and held it close to her chest. She didn't speak, but tears filled her eyes. Jace saw it. A soft crack in her stone face. "What's your name?" he asked. She stayed quiet. Then, softly, almost like wind, she whispered, "Maya." That was the first word she had spoken. He nodded slowly. "All right, Maya. You're safe now." She stared at the fire. He didn't push her. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat by the fire, watching the flames. Jace watched her from the other side. She was afraid. He could see it. Not of him, but of the world. The next morning they rode together. Jace let her ride his horse. She held the saddle with weak arms, but didn't complain. They traveled for hours. She still didn't talk much, but sometimes she pointed to things: a bird, a tree, a broken fence. She was remembering something. They reached a small abandoned church by the hills. Jace decided to rest there. He cooked beans over fire, shared them with her. That's when she showed him the scar. She lifted her shirt from the side and pointed. A deep, ugly wound ran along her ribs. She made hand signs. She mimed a gun. She mimed men shouting. She mimed fire. Then she drew a circle in the dirt. A village. She placed pebbles around it. People. Then she pushed the pebbles away one by one, leaving just one behind. Her Jace felt cold. Her tribe was gone. Burned. Killed. She had escaped. Barely. He looked at the tattoo again. That symbol, once a sign of peace, of home, was now the only thing left of her people. She was the last. And those who did it, they weren't strangers to him. He knew them. He had once ridden with men like that. Dirty men with black hearts and bloody hands. The kind who burned villages just for sport. His face turned dark. He had walked away from that life. But now it was walking back to him, in the form of a girl with haunted eyes. He made a promise that night. He didn't say it aloud, but he said it in his heart. He would find the men who did this, and he would make them pay. The next morning, the wind had changed. It was colder now, sharper. The air carried a strange silence, like something was coming. Jace packed his things slowly. He didn't speak much. His eyes looked far away. Maya sat by the fire, still holding a carved bone pendant in her hands. She had not let it go since he showed it to her. They had shared food, shared silence, shared pain. But now it was time to move again. Jace knew where they had to go. There was only one gang in this part of the land cruel enough to burn a peaceful village. Only one group who would chain a tribal girl and sell her like an animal. Hollow Creek Gang. He had once ridden with them, many years ago. Back then, Jace was a different man. Young, greedy, proud. He robbed trains and stole gold. He never asked questions about where it came from. But after they killed an innocent man during a robbery, Jace walked away. He couldn't carry that kind of blood anymore. He thought he had. Left that world behind. But evil doesn't stay quiet forever. Now, it had touched the life of a girl who had once saved his. He owed her a debt, and debts like that are not paid with silver or words. They are paid with justice. They rode into the hills for 2 days. Maya didn't talk much, but she was stronger now. She ate without fear. She pointed to things along the way. Trees she knew, rivers she remembered. Once, she even smiled at a deer crossing the trail. But the smile didn't last. When they stopped for rest on the second night, Jace pulled out a map. He showed her a place marked with a red X. That's where they hide now, he said. An old silver mine near Hollow Ridge. Maya stared at the mark, then at him. Her face was calm, but her hands clenched the blanket tighter. Jace looked her in the eye. "You don't have to come," he said. She nodded slowly, then placed her hand over her heart, and then pointed to the sky. Jace didn't understand the words, but he understood the meaning. She was coming. For her people. For her home, for herself. That night, Jace cleaned his gun. It was an old Colt, but it still worked like thunder. He had used it too many times. For gold, for anger, for survival. But now he would use it for the right reason. In the quiet dark, Maya came and sat beside him. She placed something in his hand, a small feather wrapped with red string. He looked at her. "What's this?" He asked Dot. She pointed to the fire, then to his chest. Then she smiled, soft, small, and full of old memories. Jace understood. It was a sign of courage. The next day, they reached Hollow Ridge by noon. The old silver mine was hidden in a deep valley. From a high cliff, Jace spotted the camp. There were 6 men, rough, armed, drunk. They laughed around a fire. One of them wore a red scarf, the leader, Cole Marin. Jace knew him too well. He was the kind of man who shot first and never asked questions. Mey stayed hidden in the trees. Jace looked down at the camp. His jaw tightened. He didn't want a war. He wanted justice. He rode down slowly. Alone. The men saw him and stood up, hands on guns. Well, well, said Cole, smiling. Look what the dog dragged back. I'm not here for games, Jace said. I came for the girl. Cole laughed. What girl? The one you took from the mountain tribe. The one you burned. Cole's smile faded. She was just a savage. We did the land a favor. No, Jace said. You did murder. Cole pulled his gun. But Jace was faster. Bang. Cole dropped before he could fire. His red scarf hit the ground next to him. The other men reached for weapons, but Jace moved like lightning. One by one, they fell. The last one tried to run, but Maya stepped out from behind a tree with a bow in her hands and shot. Straight to the heart. Silence fell. The wind stopped. It was over. Jace stood in the middle of the camp, chest rising, blood on his coat. Maya walked toward him. She didn't look at the bodies. She looked at the ground, the ashes, the dirt, the pieces of her past. Then she looked up at him. There were no tears. Just peace. Jace dropped to one knee. He placed the red feather she gave him on the ground beside Cole's body. This is for the tribe, he said, that left the camp without a word. Not as victims, not as killers, but as 2 souls finally free from the past. The sun rose over the hills, soft and golden. The light touched the trees, the rocks, and the trail where 2 riders moved slowly. 1 man, 1 girl, side by side on a dusty road that led nowhere and everywhere. Jac, he didn't speak much. He was tired, not just in his body, but in his soul. The fight at Hollow Ridge was over. The men who burned the village and sold the girl were gone. But victory didn't bring smiles. It only brought silence. Maya rode beside him with quiet eyes. She didn't cry. She didn't look back. Her face was calm, but her spirit felt far away, like she was walking between 2 worlds. One burned behind her, and one still unknown. Ahead. They reached the river by evening. It was the same river that flowed near her old home. She stepped down from the horse and walked slowly to the edge. The water was cold, clear, and fast. Maya knelt beside it. She dipped her hands in and closed her eyes. Jace stayed back. He watched her. In the soft light of the setting sun, she looked like something from a dream. Not broken, not small, just silent and strong. She opened her pouch and took out the carved bone pendant. She kissed it, then placed it into the river. The water carried it away. Then she pulled the red feather from her shirt and tied it to a branch nearby. She stood there a long time, like she was saying goodbye to her tribe, to her family, to her pain. When she came back to Jace, her face had changed. Not with a smile, but with peace. Jace nodded. You're strong, he said. She looked up at him and finally spoke. You are too, she said softly. It was the second time she had spoken since he bought her. Jace didn't ask where she would. Go now. He already knew the answer. Home, but her home wasn't there anymore. It had burned. Her people were gone. Still, Maya pointed north, toward the mountains. He understood. That was where her tribe used to go in the summer. Maybe some of them had escaped. Maybe some were still alive. Maybe not. But it didn't matter. She had to find out. That night, they camped under the stars, just like that first night by the creek. But this time, something was different. Maya sat close to the fire, not like a scared girl, but like someone who knew she belonged in the world again. She showed Jace how to make a small flute from a hollow stick. She carved symbols into it, the same ones on her tattoo. Then she gave it to him. For the winds, she said, so they remember us. He took it carefully. He had never owned anything like it before. A gift made with calm hands, not stained with blood or greed. In the middle of the night, Jace woke to find her gone from the fire. He stood quickly, hand on his gun, but then saw her, standing on a small hill above the camp, her arms raised to the sky. She was singing, a soft, ancient sound, full of sorrow and hope. The stars seemed to listen. The wind slowed down. He didn't move. He just watched. That song, even though he didn't understand the words, reached deep into his chest. It reminded him of who he used to be, and who he had become. Not a gunman, not a thief, but a man with a debt, a man who paid it at sunrise. They packed the last of their things. She pointed to the mountain path. He nodded. Double quotes. Do you want me to come with you? He asked. She smiled gently and shook her head. This part, I walk alone. Jace didn't argue. He reached into his saddlebag and pulled out something, the last of the silver coins from the auction. He pressed them into her hand. For the road, he said. In case you ever need help. She closed her fingers around. Bam. Then she did something that surprised him. She stepped forward, reached up, and wrapped her arms around his chest. It was a quiet, short hug, but it said everything. Thank you. I remember. Goodbye. She turned and walked up the path, her steps steady, her head high. Jace stood there a long time, watching her fade into the trees. He didn't follow. He didn't stop her. Some journeys are meant to be taken alone. Later, he rode back toward the open plains. The road was long, the land wide, but he felt lighter. Not because the past was gone, but because he had faced it. And somewhere in the mountains, a girl with a tattoo walked toward her future. She had once saved him. And now he had saved her. But maybe, just maybe, they had saved each other.